My name is Major Elise Warren, U.S. Army Logistics, age 37. 24 hours after folding the flag from my husband's casket, I unlocked our door and found strangers boxing my life away. His father said, "Property reverts to blood, not vows." But he didn't know. Marcus had left orders. Would you have walked in or stood your ground? The Charleston air was heavy that morning, the kind that clings to your skin, thick with salt and sorrow. My dress blues still carried the faint scent of folded flags and gunpowder. Less than 24 hours earlier, I had stood graveside as a bugler's final note dissolved into the mist, and a soldier placed a triangle of stars into my trembling hands. Now, that same flag sat on the passenger seat beside me, still damp with rain, as I turned onto the quiet oak-lined street we had called home for 8 years. Spanish moss hung like old memories, brushing the hood of my Jeep. Every porch light was off, every curtain drawn. It looked peaceful, but too peaceful. My hand tightened on the steering wheel. Instinct whispered, "Something's off." I pulled into the driveway, gravel crunching under the tires, and stared at the front door. A door Marcus and I had painted navy blue the first week we moved in. The brass handle caught the sunlight, glinting like an unblinking eye. But it was what I didn't see that froze me. The small welcome mat, the one with our initials, and was gone. In its place, bare concrete. I stepped out, boots meeting brick, and walked up the path. My fingers brushed the key ring out of habit, muscle memory from years of coming home at 500 after late shifts. I slid the key into the lock, turned, and felt it jam. Once, twice, a third time. The key didn't fit. For a long moment, I just stood there, thumb resting against cool brass. That's when I saw it. Faint scratches around the lock, fresh, like someone had changed the cylinder overnight. They'd changed the locks. My pulse didn't quicken. Not yet. Training took over. I stepped back, scanned the windows, curtains open, boxes stacked by the foyer. Movement inside. A silhouette crossed the hall, clipboard in hand. Through the glass, I recognized the shape. Raymond, my father-in-law. He opened the door before I could knock. Not out of courtesy, out of control. The smell of cheap cigar smoke rolled out first, followed by the chill of air conditioning turned too low. "You're back sooner than expected," he said flatly. Not a word of condolence, not a trace of empathy. Just the clipped tone of a man mid-task. He tapped the pen against his clipboard. "We're proceeding with the transfer." "The what?" "The property reverts to the bloodline now. Marcus is gone. That means the house, the clinic assets, all of it, returns to family stewardship." My voice stayed calm even. I am family. He didn't flinch. By name, not by blood. Behind him, Gerald and Timothy were carrying out boxes, my boxes, laughing about who'd get the porch swing. Patricia descended the staircase like a judge entering court, pearls glinting against her blouse. In her hands, she held a photo frame. I knew it before she turned it. Our wedding picture. She slid my photo from the glass, let it fall into a trash bin, and smiled faintly. "We'll keep the one of Marcus. He doesn't need you in the background anymore." Her words hit harder than the rifle volleys from yesterday. I stepped inside, not to argue, but to see. The living room was a battlefield of cardboard. Movers I didn't recognize hauled furniture past my medals, my grandmother's armchair, even the shadowed outline where our wedding cross had hung. Raymond turned, gesturing like a commander at a map. 2 hours, Molly. Collect your effects. After that, anything remaining will be considered Coleman property." For a moment, I said nothing, in silence. I scanned the room, one heartbeat at a time. The boxes, the armchair, the missing mat, the small folder still wedged in the cabinet by the desk. I saw its corner sticking out. The deed, the one Marcus and I refiled last year. I met Raymond's eyes. He mistook my silence for surrender. He didn't understand. Silence in my world isn't weakness. It's surveillance. It's the calm before response. I stepped back out onto the porch, pulled out my phone, and snapped 3 photos: lock cylinder, moving truck, clipboard, time-stamped, geotagged. Evidence. They thought they were evicting a grieving widow. They didn't know I was already building my after-action report. And that somewhere in a courthouse server under Document Book 2134, page 177, my name wasn't just on the title. It was with right of survivorship. They just hadn't read the fine print yet. By the time I reached the base, the sun was just breaking through the haze, that sharp white Charleston glare that makes everything look too clean. The parking lot outside the legal office was empty except for my Jeep. I sat for a long minute, hands resting on the steering wheel, breathing slow and even. Grief had edges. I could feel them pressing against me. But so did training. And training always came first. When emotions threaten clarity, you default to protocol. You check the ROE. I stepped out, uniform crisp, boots still dusted from the driveway. The flag that had sat beside me all night remained folded tight on the passenger seat. I couldn't bring myself to move it. Inside the small, fluorescent-lit legal office, a young Air Force captain behind the desk looked up from her monitor. The brass tag on her uniform read, Nguyen Capt. Legal Assistance. JAG. She stood, offered a respectful nod. "Ma'am, how can we assist you today?" "Personal matter," I said evenly. "Civilian estate enforcement. I need to confirm next steps before involving local law." She gestured to a chair. "Let's start from the top." I sat. Explained everything. The changed locks, the movers, the statement about property reverting to blood family. I kept my voice calm, factual, chronological, like a mission debrief. Every date, every time, every quote. When I finished, she was silent for a moment, pen motionless over her notepad. Then she exhaled through her nose, eyes narrowing slightly. "Ma'am, they changed the locks before you received notice?" "Yes." "That's unlawful entry and interference with survivorship title, if recorded." "It's recorded," I said quietly. "Joint tenancy with right of survivorship. Filed last year." She nodded, tone shifting from sympathy to structure. "All right, here's what you'll do. JAG can't represent you in civilian property disputes, but we can help you clarify process. You'll want to contact a civilian estate's attorney for representation. But first, secure documentation." She slid a legal pad toward me. Across the top, she wrote, "Step 1, certified copies. Title, beneficiaries, TOD. Step 2, civil standby. Sheriff. Step 3, demand letter via counsel. Step 4, evidence log, photos, inventory, timestamp." She glanced up. "Do you still have access to any of the original files?" "Yes, cabinet by the desk, left drawer. I saw them this morning." "Don't attempt re-entry alone," she warned. "Request a civil standby through the county sheriff. They'll keep the peace while ownership is verified. Let the document speak for you." That phrase stuck. Let the document speak for you. By 1,000 hours, I was sitting in the public access terminal at the Charleston County Recorder's office. The computer fan hummed softly under the flicker of old fluorescent bulbs. On screen, the search box waited. Name, Coleman, Marcus. I typed, pressed enter. One result. Deed Book 2134, page 177, joint tenancy, bought at right of survivorship. M. Coleman, M. Martin. I printed it, slid the warm paper into a folder, and added the timestamp. Evidence, line 1. From there, I drove across town to a modest law office wedged between a notary and a florist. The name on the door was Ana Alvarez, Estate and Civil Litigation. The receptionist looked up as I entered. "I'm Major Martin," I said simply. "JAG referred me." 10 minutes later, Ana herself emerged, mid-40s, composed, eyes that read people faster than files. She motioned me in. "Tell me what happened." I gave her the same report. calm, sequential, no adjectives. When I finished, she leaned back, tapping a pen against her chin. Classic bloodline dispute. They think kinship outranks law. It doesn't. She reached for a legal pad and began outlining actions like an operations order. First, I'll pull certified copies of your deed and the death certificate. Then we'll draft a demand letter. Concise, factual, statute cited. No emotion. You'll request immediate cessation of activity and restoration of possession. If they resist, we escalate to a civil standby for physical recovery. I nodded once. Understood. She smiled faintly. I like how you talk. You've done this before. In a different theater, I said. By noon, we had a binder started. Tab A, title, survivorship. Tab B, beneficiaries. Tab C, photos. Tab D, incident log. On the last page, she clipped a form labeled Affidavit of Death of Joint Tenant. When we file this, she said, your ownership becomes indisputable in county records. They can't claim confusion after that. The word indisputable landed like a promise. I left her office lighter but steady. Outside, the humidity hit like a wall. Charleston's reminder that comfort was earned. In my world, missions succeed not from anger, but accuracy. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need revenge. I just needed to follow the checklist. Step by step, document by document. And tomorrow morning, when I returned to that house, I wouldn't be alone. I'd bring the binder and the law. The next morning, Charleston woke slow. Gray clouds draped low, cicadas humming like background static. I'd been awake since 0400. Sleep hadn't come, not after spending half the night reviewing statutes, case law, and every clause in the survivorship deed Anna had printed. By dawn, the binder was packed. Tab A, certified deed copy. Tab B, affidavit of death of joint tenant. Tab C, time-stamped photos. Tab D, demand letter unsigned but ready. The flag from the funeral rested in the passenger seat again. Not because I couldn't put it down, but because it belonged where I could see it. A folded reminder of the man who'd prepared me for this battle, and the discipline he'd expect from me now. As I turned onto our street, I spotted the truck before I reached the driveway. A white box truck idled at the curb, hazard lights blinking in rhythm with the pulse in my jaw. Two movers were loading furniture, my furniture, onto a dolly. The armchair first, the one my grandmother gave me. I parked at the corner, out of sight for a moment, breathing through the wave that rose in my chest. Then training kicked in. Observe, assess, act. I eased the Jeep into view, engine off, door closing quietly behind me. My boots hit the pavement, slow and deliberate. No rush, no shouting. The first rule of control is posture. One of the movers glanced up, mid-lift. He froze. I walked forward until I stood at the edge of the driveway, the invisible line that still belonged to me. You have authorization for removal? I asked, voice level. He blinked. We were told it's family property. Got the address, got the name. Coleman. I see, I said quietly. Well, that name's half right. My phone was already recording. Timestamp visible, location logged. Raymond's voice carried from the porch before he appeared. Molly, you shouldn't be here. I live here, I replied evenly. Not anymore. We gave you every courtesy yesterday. You ignored it. I tilted my head slightly. I didn't ignore it, Raymond. I documented it. That's when the sheriff's cruiser rolled up, tires crunching against the gravel shoulder. The blue stripe flashed once. A civil standby call had been dispatched 20 minutes earlier, courtesy of Anna's office. The deputy stepped out, hand resting near his belt, not on it. Neutral, assessing. Morning, everybody take a breath. Who's the homeowner? Raymond stepped forward. This is my son's property. He's deceased. Family's reclaiming possession. The deputy turned to me. And you? I handed him the binder. Major Molly Martin. surviving spouse. Deeds under joint tenancy with right of survivorship. Recorded last year. Certified copy. Tab 1. He flipped it open, tracing the highlighted clause. Recorded March, book 2134, page 177. He reached for his radio. Dispatch, confirm deed on file under Martin Coleman, JTWOS, book 2134, page 177. Static. Then a voice. Confirmed, recorded. Survivorship valid. The deputy nodded once, tone shifting to procedural finality. Then title vested immediately upon Mr. Coleman's death. That means, sir? He looked at Raymond. Without a court order, you're trespassing. Raymond blinked hard, the words bouncing off his pride like bullets off armor. This is family property. And she's family by law, the deputy said. Now step back off the threshold. Behind him, one of the movers whispered, You want to keep loading? The other shook his head. Patricia appeared in the doorway, pearls in place, her voice honeyed and hollow. This isn't necessary. We can settle this privately. I met her gaze. That's what yesterday was. Private. The deputy held up a hand. Let's keep this civil. Ma'am, if you've got counsel... Already retained, I said. She's on her way. As if on cue, a dark sedan turned onto the street. Ana Alvarez stepped out, heels clicking like a metronome against the curb. She didn't hurry. Professionals never do. Binder under one arm, she approached, eyes scanning every detail. The truck, the boxes, the faces. She stopped beside the deputy, introduced herself, then turned to Raymond. Sir, you were served a verbal warning yesterday. This is now a documented violation. He tried to speak, but Ana lifted a single page from her folder. The demand letter. Bold at the top. Cease and desist. Unlawful entry. Unauthorized removal of property. I strongly suggest, she said calmly, you stop touching things that aren't yours. The deputy's radio crackled again. Confirmation complete? Deed active, title in Major Martin's name alone. Ana nodded once. Then we're done here. Return every item exactly where you found it. The movers looked from her to the deputy. The deputy nodded once. And just like that, the war shifted. Raymond opened his mouth, but no sound came. The power dynamic had flipped, not through anger, not through volume, but through paperwork. As the movers carried the armchair back inside, I took a slow breath, grounding myself in the stillness between orders. In the military, silence after a command means acknowledgement. That silence, right there, in my driveway, meant victory was only a matter of time. The movers were halfway through returning what they'd stolen when Ana's calm voice broke the humid air. Deputy, may I request your continued presence while we establish chain of custody? Understood, he said, flipping open his notepad. The word chain hung there, deliberate. She was speaking their language now. Protocol, procedure, evidence. Not emotion. Raymond's jaw worked behind a clenched fist. Patricia stood frozen, her hand clutching the porch rail as if it could hold up the weight of her pride. The sons whispered behind her, their confidence dissolving with every item that crossed back over the threshold. Inside the house, Ana chose the same table where this family once tried to humiliate me. The dining table polished to mirror perfection. She set her briefcase down like an evidence locker and opened it. The sharp click-click of the latches echoed across the room. Raymond finally spoke. You can't just walk into a man's home and take over. Ana didn't look up. Correction, Mr. Coleman, this is not your home. It's my client's primary residence under South Carolina property law, Title 27, Chapter 7, Section 40. You may confirm that later. I've included citations. She slid a page across the table toward him. The paper whispered like silk, but its words were iron. Raymond's eyes flicked across the lines. The color drained from his face. You think a piece of paper... It's not a piece of paper. Ana interrupted softly. It's a recorded instrument. Certified, time-stamped, notarized, and enforced. She gestured to the deputy, Officer, would you please note the filing reference? Book 2134, page 177. The deputy's pen scratched dutifully. Raymond looked up, his composure cracking. Marcus wouldn't have... Anna stopped him again. Her tone cool but edged. Mr. Coleman, your late son did. He took every precaution to ensure his spouse would not be displaced by next of kin. This deed supersedes intestate claims. That means bloodline has no standing here. The word bloodline hit the room like a thunderclap. Patricia flinched. Gerald tried to recover with bluster. We'll see you in court. You think this nonsense. Anna met his gaze without blinking. Then I'd advise you to retain competent counsel quickly, because any attempt to contest a survivorship deed will trigger Section 1553 TALMT, frivolous claim penalties, full cost recovery, and attorney fees. She slid another document forward, thicker this time. In addition, my client's husband executed a durable power and final testament 6 months before his death. You're listed as contingent beneficiaries, conditional upon good faith. That condition has now been voided by this morning's conduct. Patricia's breath hitched. He left us nothing? Anna folded her hands. He left you the opportunity to show grace. You declined. No shouting, no dramatics. Just the methodical precision of someone who'd already won before walking in. Raymond sank into a chair. His knuckles pressed white against the tabletop. You think this is justice? He said quietly. No, I finally answered, my voice steady, grounded. This is order. He turned toward me, eyes sharp with the bitterness of a man who'd lost control of his narrative. You were never one of us. Marcus thought differently, I said. He believed family was measured by loyalty, not lineage. The deputy shifted his stance slightly, the subtle signal of a man recognizing closure. Anna gathered the papers back into her case, each one sliding into place with surgical precision. Officer, please record that all assets removed have been returned to original position. He nodded, logged and confirmed. Then she turned to me. Major, I'll file a civil restraining order by end of day. Trespass notice goes live once it's signed. Understood, I replied. Raymond rose unsteadily. You think a judge will side with you? Anna closed her case with a final snap. He already did. The recording stamp is the signature. For a long moment, the only sound was the distant hum of cicadas outside and the soft creak of Patricia's pearls as she turned her head toward the wall, the one where Marcus's medals had hung. Her eyes followed the empty space, realizing too late what had filled it. The one thing she'd never respected. Procedure. Outside, the deputy cleared his throat. All right, folks, I think that concludes this matter. Anna looked at me once. Professional? Composed. You did well holding position, Major. Marcus would have been proud. I nodded. He taught me how. As the Colemans shuffled toward the door, their empire of inheritance reduced to silence, Anna's parting words lingered in the air. In the military, standing orders stay until countermanded. This house is her standing order. The door shut behind them, slow, final, and absolute. For a moment after they left, I stood motionless in the entryway. The silence was heavy, not hollow. The silence of a line held. The deputy's cruiser rolled away. The movers vanished. And in the calm that followed, Anna turned to me with that same measured focus she'd carried since the moment she arrived. There's one more matter, she said softly. Something your husband left for you. He instructed me to deliver it only when you stood your ground. My throat tightened. What is it? Anna opened her briefcase again, slower this time. No sharp latches, no courtroom precision, just care. From a sealed envelope marked with my name in Marcus's familiar block handwriting, she withdrew a small flash drive and a letter. He called it a contingency, Anna said. Said it should only be activated if the family tried to challenge you. He wanted his words, not mine, not a judge's, to to carry the final authority. My hands trembled slightly as I took it. The weight was insignificant, but I felt it like a metal being pinned to my chest. Anna followed me to the dining room, where the table still bore faint impressions from the papers she'd laid out. I pulled my laptop from a side drawer, plugged the drive in, and waited as the screen flickered to life. The first frame was simple. Marcus, sitting at this same table, uniform pressed, eyes steady. Behind him hung the flag that would one day be folded into my hands. He began without preamble. "If you're watching this," he said, "then the scenario we discussed has unfolded. I want you to know that everything happening now is by design. You are not improvising, you are executing." He paused, taking a breath. "To my father, Raymond, you once told me that blood defines a man's worth, that heritage decides belonging. You're wrong. Character defines a man, and you forfeited yours the day you tried to measure my wife's value in surnames." Anna stood quietly behind me, hands clasped, as Marcus's calm voice filled the room. "Mom," he continued, "I know you believe in appearances, in perfect tables and polished reputations, but if your reflection mattered more than your humanity, then every mirror in this house is a lie. The woman you dismissed as loud and temporary, she was the quiet constant of my life." My vision blurred. I pressed my palm against the cool wood of the table, grounding myself. "To my brothers," Marcus said next, "you inherited our father's arrogance, not his work ethic. I built this home with my own 2 hands and the love of a soldier who stood beside me through every storm. The walls you tried to strip bare are lined with her sacrifice. You will not take them." He shifted forward slightly, eyes locking with the lens. "And to you, Molly, Major, this was never about property. This was about principle. You don't owe them rage. You owe them a demonstration. Show them what honor looks like when power is gone. Hold the line, and remember, everything you need is already in motion." The video ended abruptly. No fade out, no farewell. Just Marcus, frozen mid-breath, still steady. Anna reached into her bag once more and set a folder beside me. "This," she said, "is the full documentation package. The deeds, the recordings, the time-stamped correspondence, and the no-contest clause Marcus personally drafted. Every piece is already registered under your name. But this..." She tapped the flash drive gently. "This is the part they'll never recover from. They can fight documents. They can't fight his voice." I nodded, tears drying into resolve. "Then this stays sealed until it's needed again." "Exactly," Anna replied. "His words are standing orders." I leaned back in the chair, my chair now, and exhaled for the first time that day. Marcus hadn't left me a fortress to hide in. He'd left me a plan to defend everything we built without ever losing grace. Outside, the sun had dipped low, filtering through the Spanish moss and throwing golden lattices across the floor. It painted the room like stained glass in a chapel. Anna closed her briefcase and gave a small nod. "The operation is complete," she said simply. "Now begins recovery." As she stepped out into the fading light, I looked again at the paused image of Marcus on the screen. His eyes, so alive, seemed to be watching me. Not from memory, but from mission command. The war was over, but his strategy lived on. The next morning, Charleston woke under a sky washed clean by rain. From my porch, I could smell salt and wet oak, the kind of air that feels like renewal. The house was quiet again. Not empty, not grieving, just still. A stillness earned. Inside, everything sat precisely where it belonged. My grandmother's floral armchair had been returned to its corner by the fireplace. Marcus's medals hung back on the wall, the brass polished bright against the dark wood. The house no longer looked like a battlefield. It looked like a position held. By afternoon, the storm had rolled through town, not in the sky, but in the social circles of Charleston's old families. Word travels faster here than any formal notice. By the time the sun came out, the story was already spreading. It began at the country club. Someone had seen the deputy's cruiser parked outside my house. Someone else had recognized Anna. Her reputation was well known in legal circles. Within hours, whispers filled the polished halls where Raymond once walked like a general inspecting his troops. Did you hear? The Colemans tried to evict a decorated army major. On the week of her husband's funeral. In Charleston, reputation is currency. And Raymond had just gone bankrupt. 2 days later, his invitation to the Historical Society's annual dinner was regrettably lost. Patricia's name vanished from the Garden League's committee list. Gerald's veterinary partnership deal quietly dissolved. No investor wanted to be tied to a family under public scrutiny. Timothy, who once boasted about the family name, stopped showing up at the yacht club altogether. But I didn't celebrate. Reputation is its own punishment. I didn't need to lift a hand. All I had done was tell the truth. Through Marcus's voice, through procedure, through patience. Anna called to check in later that week. "The order is active," she said. "They can't set foot on your property without risking arrest." "Good," I replied. "But I don't want them jailed. Just gone." "That's already happening," Anna said softly. "You've won, Major." Her words should have sounded victorious. Instead, they felt like the exhale after a long march. That night, I walked through each room, the kitchen, the living room, the hallway lined with photos. Some of Marcus, some of us, some of the soldiers we'd called family along the way. The house didn't echo anymore. It absorbed the sound. It felt steady. A week later, an envelope arrived. Heavy paper, cream-colored, my name handwritten in Raymond's bold practice script. Inside was a single page. "Molly, I was wrong. About blood, about worth, about you. Grief makes men foolish, and pride makes them cruel. I will not ask for forgiveness, only that you know I finally understand why my son loved you. You held the line when the rest of us abandoned it. RC." No check, no plea. Just that. I folded it carefully and slid it into Marcus's file drawer. Not for closure, but for record. Weeks passed. The house breathed easier. I went back to duty. Not as a distraction, but as an extension of who I was. My soldiers noticed it. The steadier posture, the lighter eyes. One young lieutenant asked if I'd finally taken leave. I told him the truth. No, I just came home. One evening, I drove down to the clinic. The sign out front, Marcus Coleman Memorial Animal Hospital, gleamed softly in the amber light. Inside, a Marine sergeant waited nervously with a German shepherd at his feet. The dog had been hit by a car. His hands trembled as he stroked its fur. I knelt beside him. "You served?" He nodded. "Iraq." "Ma'am." "Then so did your dog," I said quietly. "We'll take care of him." He looked at me then, eyes full of something I recognized. The look of a man who'd seen loss and finally felt safe. That night, as I locked up, I paused at the door. For years, I had fought to keep what was mine. Now I realized this wasn't just about ownership. It was about stewardship. Marcus's voice echoed in my memory. "Hold the line." I smiled faintly. "I did," I whispered, and the line held back. The air outside was cool. The moonlight cast long, clean shadows across the street. No ghosts, no echoes, just peace. In the military, we're taught that every operation ends with a debrief. What went right, what went wrong, and what lessons must be carried forward. This story isn't about a will or property, or even revenge. It's about command. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't raise its voice but never breaks formation. People often think strength shows up loud. In orders barked, in tempers flared, in slammed doors. But real strength? It moves like protocol. Calm, written, precise. I used to believe that standing my ground meant defending walls. But I've learned something deeper. It's not the walls you hold that matter. It's the values you refuse to surrender, even when you stand alone. Raymond thought authority came from heritage. Patricia thought respect could be bought with polish. Gerald and Timothy thought family meant ownership. But Marcus taught me, and this house reminded me, that authority is built in silence, in restraint, in doing the right thing when you could so easily do the wrong one. When the Colemans left that day, there were no cheers, no victory speech, no gloating. Just the sound of a door closing on arrogance. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. It just breathes. I still think about Marcus often, not with grief anymore, but with gratitude. He didn't just love me. He prepared me. He knew there would come a day when I'd have to stand not as his wife, but as his equal, as the soldier he always believed I was. That's the legacy he left me. Not property, not papers, but procedure. A map through chaos. If there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that quiet doesn't mean weak, and dignity doesn't expire, even when love does. Every soldier knows that missions end, but principles, those outlast us all. So, to anyone listening who's ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told they don't belong, remember this. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to stand where truth tells you to stand and wait. Eventually, noise burns itself out, but integrity endures. When I walk past the mantle now, I sometimes stop at Marcus's folded flag, the same one that once trembled in my hands. It used to symbolize loss. Now it symbolizes something else. Completion. Not every battle is won with force. Some are won with patience, documentation, and one unbreakable principle. Hold the line. I didn't need to destroy them. I only needed to outlast them. And that, I think, is the truest form of revenge, one wrapped not in anger, but in honor. Have you ever seen someone underestimated until they proved everyone wrong? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if stories like this remind you that quiet power still exists, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Because here on Echoes of Revenge, we share a new story every day. Stories where strength doesn't shout, it stands. Because sometimes the loudest victory